Our first segment of the day is dealing with the real possibility of World War III happening if China backs Russia. As always, support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leaving us a short, sweet comment down below. Your help support will be greatly appreciated. Well, there's news out there and circulating that China might be backing Russia in Ukraine, which could mean World War III. And this is kind of the conversation that's happening at the moment. World War III could break out if China actively supports Russia in its year-long battle to subdue Ukraine. This comes from Volodymyr Zelensky. Quote, for us, it is important that China does not support the Russian Federation in this war, the Ukrainian president told German daily Die Welt on Monday. In fact, I would like it to be on our side. At the moment, however, I don't think it's possible. But Zelensky added that he sees opportunity for China to make a pragmatic assessment of what is happening. Because if China allies itself with Russia, there will be a world war. And I do think that China is aware of that. And this is kind of conversations that we've heard Biden talk about in some way, shape, or form, not literally say World War III, but does say that there's going to be consequences if China does this. And we should all be alarmed by this as well, because we're not really in a position to be on multiple fronts. And you've heard this on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Everybody's really talked about it, saying, look, we're not in anywhere near the shape that we think we are in the way that we talk about ourselves in terms of being able to be in Ukraine, China advancing over there, the possibility of China invading Taiwan, and all these things happening. We're just not in a place of where we need to be. We talk a big game a lot, but again, we're not where we should be. You can go back to even the Obama administration of really wanted depleting our military and lowering the standards as well. And then you had Trump in office wanting to build up our military because he understands there's actual evil in the world. But you have these progressive leftists in conjunction with the Democrat Party always saying, oh, America's evil, America this, America that. All the while there's still slavery happening in the Middle East. All the while they're still beheading Christians all across the world. All the while you have China still having camps around with the Uyghurs. All sorts of stuff's happening. But you have these progressive leftists that are a bunch of idiots trying to run the show that voted in Joe Biden. And now he's the knucklehead running the show. And now we're dealing with this whole mess. Well, because if China allies itself with Russia, again, there will be a world war. The Ukrainian president's remarks come one day after the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken admitted that the U.S. was very concerned that China is considering providing lethal support to Russia as it continues its long invasion on its western neighbor. Blinken told NBC's Meet the Press Sunday that he told his Chinese counterpart that such a move would have serious consequences in our relationship. And this was kind of echoed by Joe Biden himself. It goes on here to say on Monday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson took a tougher tack, when he said the United States is in no position to make demands of China. There is some truth to that, believe it or not. I mean, we're a world power. So is China. China has nuclear warheads as well. If you remove the nuclear warheads, we would wipe China off the face of this earth rather quickly. If you all remember the Gulf War, Iraq was, they believe, the third largest military on the face of the planet. And we took them out in like a week or two. Like legitimately, I think it was like 2 weeks. So we would do the same thing with China. But the problem is they have nukes and they're not afraid to use them. The spat comes at a particular wrought time in the relationship between the two nations, which most recently quarreled over a Chinese spy balloon that floated above most of the United States being shot down earlier this month. And if you recall that one, Joe Biden literally let our intelligence community watch it lift off mainland China, fly all the way across the United States, and then they take it out after they gathered a bunch of intel. And you know what? So they gathered intel. I think the bigger problem is that the image of it and the optics of it to the Chinese going, wow, if they're just going to let us fly a spy balloon all the way across the United States and just gather whatever we want, what else are they willing to allow us to do? And my assessment of all of it is Joe Biden's in the pocket of the Chinese government, and so is Hunter Biden. They got a lot of dirt on them. And so if Joe Biden does anything or steps out of line, the Chinese are just going to shellac him and just unload a bunch of information about it. So here's Zelensky's assessment echoed those of U.S. experts who testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee last week. They said this, quote, unfortunately, it may very well take countries like China pushing Russia for there to be any break in Russia President Vladimir Putin's resolve at this particular moment. It would have to be, I think, other countries beyond the United States and its Western allies demonstrating to Putin in some fashion, behind the scenes or more directly, that this war is not in their interest and that they want him to move towards the negotiating table. And it's kind of weird, and maybe somebody can let me know in the comments below. I'm not really sure if I understand Putin's whole position and thinking going into Ukraine like this. I understand he wants territory, he believes it's Russia and all those other things, but I mean, what is really the end goal here? Is it just to take land? Or is the end goal to take the land, invade Poland and the surrounding areas as well, and then really dive into a world war? I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it's really stupid of him to do something like that. But, you know, when somebody's off their rockers, who the hell knows? Joe Biden has a lot of stupid stuff, too. He is off his rockers. Well, meanwhile, President Biden made an unannounced visit to Ukraine on Monday ahead of the anniversary of Russia's invasion. So you find this kind of interesting because on one end, you have Donald Trump going to make a visit in Ohio, in East Palestine, where you had the train derailment and the toxin and the gas going all the way up in the air. And supposedly this stuff's falling on the American people. It's in the rivers, it's in the ravines. But, you know, everything according to the Biden administration's A-okay, breathing all the air. You guys are fine over there. When in actuality, no, you're not. Be very careful. But I find it interesting. Trump's going to go there and deal with the American people, as one should. Take care of your own first, because America first, right? But then you have Joe Biden making sure he's taking care of the Ukrainians. Somebody had a really awesome picture, and I got to see if I could find it, basically showing the funding that we've done, $120 billion on kind of the infrastructure or certain areas of the United States. But yet the $120 billion is going to the Ukrainians, where we're only spending a minimum amount of money here in the United States. So Ukrainians get all our money, and we can't even take care of ourselves and our own people here. That's the way this Biden administration works. This is the way the Democrat Party works. Give everybody else our money and not focus on our own here. Just lovely. I mean, look at our military. Look at the way the Democrats have really depleted our military. There's a reason why 70% of our budget is our social programs and like 20 to 25% of our budget is military. When you have all this going on, a possibility of World War III, you think you would start now by trying to rebuild our military just as a safety precaution? Even if it's for a decade, you think that you would actually have that mechanism in place? But no. Democrats want to sit there and worry about equity, social justice and inclusion, transing your kids and all this other stuff. Well, Biden pledged another $460 million in security aid to the war-torn nation, and told Putin that his war of conquest is failing. 1 year later, Kiev stands, Ukraine stands, democracy stands, Biden said after meeting Zelensky at the palace. So there you go, another $460 million that we can use here in the United States. So we're going to fund the endless war here. And you got to love just the messaging, right? You had the Democrats for literally like a decade or two complain about Iraq and funding that war in Afghanistan, that it's an endless war. You know, what's the actual mission? What's the objective here? And you have now Democrats doing the exact same thing with Ukraine, of which there's no boots on the ground for us. But they literally said, well, we're going to fund this till it ends. Oh, awesome. Because we don't have our own problems here in the United States to worry about. I'm so tired of always, and I think it needs to happen, but I am tired of just sending everybody billions and billions of dollars when our roads suck, our infrastructure sucks, our railways suck. Everything is sitting here falling apart here in America. And clearly we have billions of dollars to spend on it, but we're spending it in other places. We're just going to send it in just other countries. Again, there's some countries and people that need it, but we also need it here in America to make America. Let's focus on ourselves first and put America first. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.